So it's so annoying to say this, but just know that, like, if anything feels like it's fallen short, like you've definitely learned something along the way, and you might have to dig and pick to find the lessons. But there's a lesson in everything. There has to be. Otherwise, I don't know the alternative to live and believe that bad things just happen to you because what you're just destined for bad things. Like I could never let anyone believe that about themselves. That's just not a great way to live your life. Like you have to believe that something has happened so that something else can happen in the future.
Okay, so I just did a little intro, but when you're at a party and someone asks you what you do, what do you say?
I always say that I'm a fitness instructor. That's it. That's where I leave it usually.
You don't tell them that you work for Peloton?
No, I feel like saying that you're a fitness instructor lets the conversation, it opens the conversation to be about people's experience in fitness. Whereas if I say Peloton, people want to ask me questions about Peloton, where I think it's more fun to hear people's experiences within fitness. So they'll be like, oh, I like spin, or, oh, I go to the gym all the time, or like, I did this one class once, it was awful. Sometimes people talk about Peloton, not having a clue that I work for Peloton. I just find it more interesting to say that I'm a fitness instructor and see where the conversation goes.
Honestly, that is a really good tactic. I think that's probably gives you a lot more interesting responses.
It does.
I would love to know how you got here. What has your journey to Peloton and to your current career been like?
Very, a little roller coaster, I'd say. I used to do athletics. So I used to do track and field, is what you call it over in America. I used to do triple jump. And I stopped jumping the year after the 2012 Olympics. I obviously tried my hardest to get to the Olympics. That was the dream. I didn't make it. And the year after that was the Commonwealth Games, which is it's a lot easier to get into. So I kind of wanted to leave having done an international, but by this time my knees were so bad and I was a little bit injured. And I just thought to myself, I don't need to do this to prove to anyone or prove to myself that I was an athlete, that I trained hard and that I did the best that I could. I can always leave and say I was an athlete. So that the year after the Olympics, I quit. I started personal training. I started modeling. This is like the shortest version of it. And I was teaching spin at the same time. I sort of decided that I wanted to concentrate on the spin more, like the indoor cycling, a little bit more than the others in the end, after a long sort of process. And literally, as I made that decision, Peloton more or less came knocking on my door, or knocked on my studio door. So this was back in the day when the producers and the executives used to come and take our rides around London. They did mine, and I went through the big audition process, which took a while. I've heard that Camila said the same thing. Like it's a big process, which I massively respect, because it means that they're really trying to see who you are and is it consistent for months. And so after a long process, I made it, and I made it onto the team.
That's incredible. And what has it been like? So I guess you joined in 2019. So the past 4 years, what has that been like?
It's been a journey. It's been, do you know, like now looking back, it was tough. I'd say during the beginning, I was an instructor for 4 months before we got put into lockdown, especially over here in the UK. So it kind of felt like I never got to see how big it was. I guess I feel like when everything started to open up, and now that people are coming into the studio, especially because the American audience is slightly bigger than the UK audience, I meet people in the street now who are a lot of Americans that come up to me and like, oh my gosh, I do your rides. I think you're so cool. And they're like, that's mad. I think when I was sitting
That
in
was
my
a good
flat,
accent.
that's what it is. So I was like, oh my gosh, I really love her glasses. But I think during lockdown, I don't think I really understood the magnitude of what we were doing during that time.
Yeah.
I think I was just trying to keep myself positive, keep myself moving, look forward to my classes. But I honestly don't think I don't think I quite understood how big the platform was or how many people we were helping and serving and reaching out to during a really difficult time as I was still trying to find my feet. So yeah, I'd say it was a little bit difficult. Now looking back, like in hindsight, it feels like it was difficult, but during it, I didn't.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. Like it's been amazing.
Do you feel like now you're finally starting to like enjoy where you're at, or do you still feel like there's a lot of hurdles along the way? I love that I'm now in a place where I feel like one of my executive producers who we worked with, like when we're training, he was like, you got to see this, that you're going on dates. So when you're there for the first little bit, you kind of just want to, just don't show them you're full crazy on date one. Don't go in all guns blazing. Let people warm to you and, prove that you're a good instructor. I feel like I've done that now, and I'm now at the stage where I can just really like be myself and let myself go. Although I do feel like I did that from day one, but now I feel like I can do it with my whole chest, confidently, knowing that I kind of have my place in the team and just having that experience behind me. It feels like it's like I feel safe by now. I feel very safe around in a good way. Yeah. No, well, people love who that person is. So thank you for showing it off, truly. I think that leads us well into the question of the show, which is, Hannah, what is the best advice you've ever gotten?
I don't think you realize how hard that was for me to think of, because people
It's a hard question.
It's such a hard question. And I think a lot of people, especially me, I've probably got some great advice and totally ignored it or not taken it. But the one thing that stands out to me, I remember I used to go to church and there was a sermon. I could not tell you what the sermon was about. I could not tell you what part of the Bible it was about. But I remember the pastor said, it's quite a typical one. It's a solid piece of advice. And he told us to stay in our lane. He was like, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. And he repeated it 3 or 4 times. And I don't know if it was because I was doing athletics at the time and that kind of hit a little bit harder because it was to do with track and field and what I was doing. But it was something that I would have always said to myself, and I always paid attention to that little saying through all the thousands of little careers that I've had.
So what has that meant to you in different parts of your life?
When I stopped doing athletics, it's so funny saying stay in your lane. And the one time it became most applicable is when I stopped doing athletics. With that, I felt like I was a little bit behind. So I feel like a lot of my friends were starting their careers. They were working towards things. I kind of got dropped out in my mid-20s, not really knowing what to do. It's like one chapter of my life had closed and I didn't quite know what the next one was going to be. And it was just like that saying, stay in your lane. Stop looking at what everyone else is doing and stop looking at everyone else's timing. Yours is going to work for you at the right time, doing the right thing. So I went, as I said, I was a personal trainer. I did modeling and I was teaching cycling classes, indoor cycling classes all at the same time. And I think sometimes it's very tempting to look at everyone else in your industry and see what they're doing and not really put respect or appreciate what you were doing yourself. So when I was working in the gym, we used to have a we used to always see where everyone else was, where all the other personal trainers were in the gym. So I used to look at that and be like, God, I'm not anywhere near the top. Like, I'm not one of the top instructors in the gym. And that used to get on my nerves. And then when I'd go and do a modeling job, it would be like, God, there's some models that can just do this, just do modeling, and they don't have to worry about anything else. Like, I can't do that. I have to also do these other jobs as well. And then I would be teaching spin and think to myself, God, I wish I was like so good that all my classes would sell out all the time. And I wish I was that instructor. And why am I not there yet? And if I let myself get lost in that too much, it's not helpful. So for me, saying to myself, stay in your lane, like, look at what you're doing. I was doing all three at once. I wasn't doing one thing. I was doing multiple things. And I think it just helped me to stay patient and just believe that I was working towards something, even though at the time I had no idea what it was. So I was just working hard at all three of them. I would run around to castings. I would run back to the gym and do my clients. And then I'd make sure all my playlisting was done for my ride. And it was kind of like, just believe what you're doing is right for you. Stop looking at everyone else and what everyone else is doing. This is your lane. You can't jump out. Stay in yours. Do your thing.
That is beautiful. I relate to that so hard, and I think that is wonderful advice that everyone could learn from. Reminds me of one of my favorite quotes: "Comparison is the thief of joy," and I think that
100%.
is so true. I'm also curious if there's a piece of terrible advice that you've ever gotten. Is there a worst advice or a quote that you just never resonates with you?
Do you know what? I love all the, I love anything that's to do with like self-love, and I'm big on the fact that I'm in my mid-30s and I'm as single as can be. And I want to be, I'm the chief of that. I will always tell my friends that you've got to start with like loving yourself first before anything else. It's always got to be you. You've got to have that self-belief in who you are. But everyone, I feel like I'm not, now let me tell you, this is not a diss to, I'm not about to say anything against RuPaul ever. I just feel like it's quite misunderstood when we say, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love anyone else? I think sometimes we forget that doesn't mean that we're not still lovable. I feel like sometimes that phrase has got a bit twisted, and you forget that, yeah, you got to love yourself so you can love other people, but it doesn't take away from the fact that no matter how you're feeling about yourself, you are worthy of love from other people. So at the moment, that's something that I'm trying to kind of, I guess, learn or unlearn or relearn. I don't really know what one of those three is, but I feel like it's a bit of a misunderstood phrase that keeps getting chucked around it. I don't know. I feel like we are lovable. Like, everyone has something to offer, something to give, and you're worthy of love, even if you don't feel like you are at the top of your loving yourself game. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a shocking concept to a lot of people that whether we like ourselves or not, we are worth liking and we are worth being here and holding a place. And that is going to happen whether we see our worth or not. We were born worthy into this world. So
yeah,
I think that's really,
100%.
I think that is a very good point.
Yeah.
I also always love seeing, because clearly I'm a quotes person. Do you have a favorite quote or a mantra or an affirmation or something that you repeat to yourself like really often, maybe even every day?
Oh, do you know what, right? I recently got the bracelets. Do you know that America? I don't know if this is a big plug, but I got these 3 bracelets. I got the little bracelets with like little phrases.
Is that the Little Words Project?
It is the Little Words Project. Yeah.
I literally have a collaboration coming out with them on Friday.
Really? Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Funny. Yes. So I'll have to send you one of my bracelets. Also, yes, tell us about the cute bracelets. I love them. They're so inspirational.
Okay. I really love the order of mine. Like, I don't just wear them. They have to be in order. So I've got Grateful.
Okay.
Strong AF. And then you've got this. And I feel like the order to me is really important, because I think before you do anything, you have to, again, it goes back to what I said about like staying in your lane. Like, you got to be grateful for what's in your lane already, for what you already have. So that's got to come first before anything. Then you need to remind yourself who the hell you are, who the freak you are. I say that in my rides all the time. Like, when I ride, that's where I feel like I remember who I am. I'm like, can't let a little bit of being out of breath make me think that I can't do this or that. Like, this is who I, like, remember who you are. Like, you're worthy of this. You can do this. This is a challenge that is here for the taking. Remember who you are. So my strong AF one, even if it's not that, it's like a reminder to say something good about yourself. So it's like, be grateful, say something good about yourself, and then just remember that you've got this, babe. I've said it in my ride all the time as well. So, like, you got this. You got this. Like, whatever it is, you've got it. Like, it might challenge you and it might be difficult, but whatever it is, I think we've always got it. We've got it, babes. That's my thing.
I love that. That's such a good idea to put them in a specific order. And that way it's kind of like a story that you're telling as well.
When the order's messed up, I do reach down to my wrist and put them back in order again. It's very important.
I would do the same thing. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night unless they were in the right order, truly. I really understand that.
I can't wait to see your ones. I can't wait to see the ones that you've got coming out. How exciting.
It says it's for mental health awareness, and it says better days. And it's like, after one of my favorite quotes is, there are far better days ahead than any we leave behind. And so that was kind of like the inspiration for it. So yeah, no, I will absolutely send you one, and maybe you can find a space for it in your little story on your wrist. But
100.
I always I found your story so fascinating. I know you've talked about this on some of your rides. I actually was taking your run one time, and you were talking, and this resonated with me so much. You were talking about how you were engaged and you had bought a house, and you had this picture in your head of how your life was going to go and how it was going to be. And it kind of just fell apart. And like, things are very different than what you thought they were going to be. That doesn't mean they're not beautiful, but that resonated with me so much. I think everyone has experienced that in one degree or another, just having this idea of how their life was going to be and then having that not end up. And you also talked about wanting to be in the Olympics and trying your absolute best. And I can't even imagine the training and everything that goes into that. And there's only so much you can do and still falling short. And I also just so feel that, like, you just are doing everything possible. Do you have advice for people that are in that spot, that had this idea of how their life was going to go and who feel like they're just clawing at every opportunity, trying their best, and it's just not working out?
Oh, that's so hard. Those two things that you just said literally came like one after the other. So,
oh gosh,
for me, it was this whole dream of getting to the Olympics. That fell apart. Like, it fell apart. I didn't make it. I think the first thing I had to do from there is remember that just because I didn't do everything I wanted to didn't mean that I didn't do a lot of what I wanted to. So I think about like a little version of me, and I'd be like, would little me be proud of what I'd put into this? Like, I'd done my best. I'd done everything that like I was willing to do. I guess I could, like, in hindsight, maybe if I did, there's always these little questions that niggle in my head, like, what would have happened if I went to America? What would have happened if I put more money into it? But all these little things that I'm thinking now and saying now, they would have affected where I would be where I am now if it was for those things. So I don't know, that first failure was one that I feel like I had to kind of relearn or reimagine in my brain and say that just because I didn't make the Olympics doesn't mean that I didn't do so many things in athletics. So I guess it's that learning something from the failures, first of all. I
I think I never really got to learn that lesson truly, because once I stopped doing athletics, I started working at a gym pretty soon, and I met my then boyfriend, and I kind of felt like I'd won again. I was like, I've stopped doing this athletics thing and it's fine. It's all worked out because now I've met someone. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to got a flat. I'm going to have babies. My life is going to be like that perfect picture. And I think when that fell apart, the two together, like the athletics and then that added to it, like feeling like I'd failed in that as well. It was like, oh man, this is getting a lot now. But I think that gave me so much fire, because when Peloton came to find me, the timing was, I do believe that there's something in divine timing, and there's something in perfect timing for every single person. So again, that goes back to my thing of like, just staying in, doing it my way and staying in my lane. When they came to get me, I was ready. I was like a fired up instructor. I had fire in my belly. Every single time I got in that room, it was the place that I felt like I could say what was in my head. Like I could let my head thoughts out my mouth. So I'd be like, Joe, you can't let anyone stop you from being the best version of yourself, no matter what happened to you 3 months ago. We're having like little like
through the tears.
Yeah, I was like, someone told you the young enough. It's not true. Like, not as dramatic as that, but it was like I was talking to myself just out loud. And I guess like the realness and the vulnerability that I allowed myself to have in those dark rooms is what got me to where I was now. So it's so annoying to say this, but just know that like, if anything feels like it's fallen short, like you definitely learned something along the way, and you might have to dig and pick to find the lessons, but there's a lesson in everything. There has to be. Otherwise, I don't know the alternative to live and believe that bad things just happen to you because what you're just destined for bad things. Like I could never let anyone believe that about themselves. That's just not a great way to live your life. Like you have to believe that something could happen so that something else can happen in the future. Like I said, like if I'd have gone to America to train, I don't know what would have happened. If I had put more money into athletics, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know how that would have affected my life. All I know is that I'm here now, and it's pretty sweet. It feels pretty sweet. So,
well, honestly, that I think is some beautiful advice, and there is something to be said about going through those things and being able to look people in the eyes when they're going through similarly hard things and say, yeah, I've been there too. And they can feel that. And like, even in all of your instruction and your rides, like it's very palpable that when you're saying, no, you can get through hard things, you're coming from a place of experience. And that is something that easy times will never bring. So yeah, I think that's some beautiful advice.
I guess as well, like teaching exercise, like the exercise has been there throughout my whole life. And it's been something that grounded me. It's been a reminder. It's humbled me. It's lifted me up. It's got emotions out when I've needed to. It's made me smile when I like having a community, being part of something bigger than myself has taught me so much. So I do feel very lucky that through all the experiences that I've had, my like what I do for a living is something that brings so many people so much joy. But it's not just other people; it's me as well. So it's really helped me figure out my feelings and roll through these challenges. And like I said, just remember who I am at time and time again. One of the greatest things is people come up to me and they're always like, "Oh, you got me through lockdown," and I'm like, "Babe, you got me through lockdown. Like we got each other through lockdown. This was a two-way thing. I needed you as much as you needed me. So I do feel quite lucky that through everything I've had movement and exercise as a platform and a foundation for everything I've done and all the hard things I've been through in my life. It's been there. It's been part of my life.
The best instructor, truly. Like this is why we love Hannah. That is so beautiful. And I urge everyone to take her class and remember who you are. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I want to thank you for all this advice and wisdom, and I knew you'd have it, but it was just so good. And let us know how we can follow along with everything you're doing. How can people reach you? What can we support you on?
Well, you've got to download the Peloton app. You've got to jump on. I keep saying just the vibes. I might have to get in that I'm on the tread now as well. I'm on the tread.
Yes.
So running as well.
With really hard runs, by the way.
Really? Oh, stop that. Stop it. I'm sure you've got this. You've got this.
Yeah, inspirational, but difficult. So the best mix of things.
Has to be that way.
Yes.
I'm on the tread now as well. I'm going to add some more walking in there to help everyone out. To help all the faves
There we go.
And Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I go in and out of TikTok. I wish I could be better. I'm too old to keep up with the kids these days with the TikTok.
I honestly feel that too.
I try my hardest. All Hannah Frankson, one word, at Hannah Frankson on all the platforms.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, everyone follow, download the app if you want a bright spot in your day. Take her classes, feel capable, remember who you are. And Hannah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor, trust me. It's been great.
This was wonderful. And to all of our listeners, thank you for listening to The Shift.